New, old, forgotten. Get the scope on products with Hot or Not with Keith Peffer. Keith Peffer Puffer. Santa's a little drunk.
All right, everyone. Welcome to Hot or Not, a show about hot new products. I'm your host, Keith Peffer. And today, we got another hot new product to talk about. Before we get into that, though, I'm actually joined here by Vinny. Hey, Vinny, how you doing, buddy?
Hi, Keith. How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right.
I love coming on your show. I definitely feel like the dumb one in the group whenever I'm on your show. Now, when I hang out with Stoffergens, I feel like the smart one. But with you, God, no, man, I feel terrible.
They're a hoot to watch, though. Their stories are great.
I love them. They're some of my favorite people in the whole world.
Yeah, definitely. Well, other than Vinny, I'm also joined by Paul Hayden here, and we're going to talk about the Twinkly Lights. So, Paul, how are you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, doing great. I'm really excited about talking about, another great product. I think This is going to be good. So let's just get right into it, I guess. So Paul, kind of tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do? I mean, you've been on the professional triers, but let's kind of gear this more towards, your profession and how Twinkly Lights kind of interact with that.
Sure. Well, actually, strangely enough, this pretty much is what I do for a living. I handle all the RGB product and projects for Reinders, all the large programmable stuff, all the jobs, all the people we help out, that kind of thing. So, there's our website. The RGB section has its own, and Twinkly Pro has its own section on there. But we recently finally got some online ordering capabilities, so that's pretty cool. But pretty much, I know he's been on my case for like 2 years about this. It's like it's coming, but no, we finally have ordering abilities, and the accounts are tiered. So let us know if you're a contractor. There'll be contractor pricing available and all that good stuff. But I mean, pretty much I spend my day finding RGB projects, helping the contractors figure stuff out, do all the circuit or schematic diagram stuff, some programming. We got projects all over the place this year. We sent one to the Cayman Islands. So, I mean, it's it's a weird little world, but yeah. I've been pretty much doing this as a hobby since 2006 or so, and started in about 2013 doing some consulting here and there. And Reinders took me on full time about 3 seasons ago. So, been doing it ever since.
Yeah. It's a fun hobby and a fun profession if you could get into it.
It is. It's a little weird being on the hobby side and the professional side because you got to kind of, but it's it's always interesting. So,
well, there's definitely going to be crossover. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot of crossover, which is nice, but you probably have to deal with this constant battle of like, oh no, there's a better way to do that, or no, there's a cheaper way to do this, but not the right way to do it, or the wrong way to I feel bad for you, man.
It is a little challenging because hobbyist me would pick up some PVC and make something. Professional me, it's like you can't do that. It's got to be UL listed. It's got to have a PE look at it and all this other stuff. So I mean, it's a very different ball game, and it's hard to get people to understand that it's a night and day difference. I mean, you walk on some of these job sites, and if everything doesn't have their UL listing stamped on there, they go ballistic. So it's definitely a different set of rules and a different way of looking at things and different dollar values associated with those things. So, on the hobbyist side of the world, when you tell them how much some of the, professional Minlian stuff costs, they stare at you like you're completely out of your gourd. So, it's it's different traveling between both worlds.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know that I definitely skirt that line and stuff like that too. So like kind of to harken back to your, because you were on the professional triers before, you kind of did talk about your show and you did have some millions and some UV or UL kind of licensed lights and stuff like that. So do you find yourself kind of, preferring one or the other, if you had to pick a side, for your own show?
But my own show is kind of, it's probably a little bit more playground, a little bit less show. Sometimes I've got prototypes for things. Sometimes I've got different stuff that I just wanted to try or figure out how it worked. So I'll try to incorporate that in there for absolutely no reason. Sometimes, I've got friends with crazy senses of humor. So I have a 9.5 foot tall lit Sasquatch in my office right now. So, there's stuff like that you kind of have to add and mess with it. So it's probably a little bit less formal than I'd like, but I kind of feel like if I'm selling the products, I should be using a lot of them myself too. So I float back and forth. I have all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of it I'll just pick up and be like, new shiny toy. I'll play with this and see what it does. So. But I can't say as I have a favorite. I like the Midland stuff for the durability and the simplicity of things, but I like some of the hobbyist stuff for the more creative applications and, slightly more outside the box kind of stuff.
I think I'd be the same way, taking a little bit from work and stuff like that and using it as like, I'm sorry, but as an excuse to kind of like experiment, I got to get that hands-on experience after all, yeah, I'm jealous.
Yeah, we've got a building perimeter solution we're looking at. So, of course, the first place that's going is my roof line because, hey, we got to try it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's interesting as all hell. But today, let's talk about Twinkly Lights because I want to harken back to kind of where I first heard about it, which was actually the Holiday Light think tank. I think I saw this exact. Hopefully, this is showing on the screen.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I think I saw this box here, maybe in the same kind of situation on like a store retail shelf and stuff like that. But tell us a little bit about it. What is Twinkly Lights?
So there's a couple of different theories and themes here. The retail box version that you saw is technically the Twinkly version, and then there's a Twinkly Pro version. They're very different. The version that you had up there is a smaller bulb. It's a capsule style, which most of the people on this side of the world are unfamiliar with, but it's a lot bigger in Europe, where they take like a clear cap, they'll put the LED into the cap, and then they'll squirt a bunch of silicone into the back, and then they'll heat shrink over the top of that. Yep, there we go. So the one on the left, which I'm assuming is everybody's left, the smaller one is the Twinkly version that you would find on that tree. The one to the right is the capsule version of the Pro product. You'll also notice that the wires are a little bit thicker, and there's a whole bunch of other differences. And a big portion of the difference is in the software and the capability of the software as well between the two. But basically, Twinkly as a whole is a typical, slightly more 5mm. Like this is. Well, it's kind of bright, but typical molded base. It looks exactly like a regular 5mm. It's kind of blowing out my colors, but you can see my hand there. It's doing the rainbow patterns. But that's the Pro version. But it's the software part of it's really what makes it unique. But yeah.
So software, like what? Okay, so. Let's talk about the retail side because I think most of our listeners are hobbyists. I'm super interested in the Pro version too. I imagine that's more on the commercial side, or is both of those kind of like a selling point?
I'm kind of. I don't know. I wish they would have referred to it as something other than Pro. Maybe Plus would have been a good possibility. No, it's a version of Twinkly that's outdoor rated. So if you want to use it outdoors, the Pro version is the only way to go with that, as opposed to the straight indoor version.
So that's the only difference. That's one
of the major differences.
Okay.
Yeah. But the other major difference is the application software piece that allows you to group controllers together. Mm-hmm. Right now, we can take 10,000 pixels and group them all as one entity, no matter how many controllers there are across. So it gets a little weird. Like if you're doing a tree and you put like 5 or 10 controllers in the tree, you can tell the software that this group of controllers is the tree, and then it will treat them as one entity when it remaps everything.
Okay.
That's available on the Pro option?
Well,
or on both options?
Both options.
The mapping is available on both options, but I believe the 3D version of the mapping is only in the Pro, and the ability to do 10,000 pixels is only on the Pro side. I think the the retail version caps out less than that.
Okay. I mean, so you could do interesting kind of things like.
Yeah. So
I have some video queued up here.
Did you find a video? Okay. Yeah. That's actually my Sasquatch.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's play this again.
Although now he's trimmed all in warm white and he's got a red hat, but yes.
So that's all done in the Pro and that's mapped out?
Correct.
Okay.
So what this one is doing, the tree's got a controller, the wreath has a controller, and the Sasquatch has a controller. But they're grouped so that the application treats it all as one unit. That's why you can see the blue stripe and the white stripe going all the way across as if it thinks it's one solid thing.
Almost like a whole house effect
like
kind of stuff.
Whole house model.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was a quick little one that we did in our training. That's a tree we pulled together. This was the same thing. I mean, those lights are just thrown on there pretty random. I mean, just like you do a normal branch wrap. And then in the software, it goes through a mapping process where it does like a blink pattern, and then it watches the blinks, and then it figures out the position of the lights in relation to each other, and then it remaps the effects over the top of that.
Okay.
So you get these linear lines out of randomly placed bulbs.
Well, that's convenient. I mean, there's something that kind of built into X lights that do that, right? But it's kind of cumbersome. But this is like built into the app. You're ready to roll as soon as you've done mapping it, basically.
Right. Yeah, and it takes maybe 15 to 20 seconds.
Oh, well, you can't beat that.
No, I mean, it's real fast. And there's also an online library of other effects. And there's supposed to be a content creation tool available on the Pro side that will allow you to take little video clips and images and things and then make content out of those that then shows up in your Twinkly account that you can then apply to a mapping.
Okay.
There's a couple of there's a video that they just posted today. Oh, all right. You should be able to. All right, can you guys see that?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, wow.
So this is the version of the capsule light, but this is mapped across the entire face of the building. They were doing their Twinkly logo and all sorts of stuff.
But that just shows what you could do as a business. That's kind of enticing right there.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is essentially no programming, no complicated setup, just putting the controllers out there, getting your lights in the right place, and then, spending a couple minutes monkeying around with your phone.
So software. So this is something you're going to do on an iPad or an iPhone or a smartphone, and you use the right? Or
currently it works really well in iOS. The Android version's lagging a little bit behind, but they will have that straightened out fairly soon.
All right. So I'm sure they have videos of this on YouTube, but I'm sorry if I didn't look. But no, right. So you basically, you're going to use the app. You're going to take a photo of your prop with the twinkly lights on it, and it's going to map that for you. And then in that app, you could kind of pick, it's just probably predetermined kind of effects, right? But it sounds like also you can use other sources to then bring in those effects in, or is that not available yet?
The forthcoming content creation tool is supposed to have the ability to use other forms of media to try to make life a little bit easier.
Okay.
Their goal was to try to be able to have average people be able to do decent content very quickly. And from what I've seen, that's actually the case.
Yeah.
Trying to find some other examples for you, but there's a few that show like other tree styles.
This kind of seems like it came out of nowhere. I mean, maybe I'm just not focusing on that kind of side of just kind of focus on the do-it-yourself kind of thing. But like, what's the history of this product, really?
The retail version's been around, I want to say 2, maybe 3 seasons now.
Okay.
But they've recently done a really big push for this pro side of it, and picked up 3 US-based distributors and really made an amazingly solid product out of it.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not the Walmart version.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, how's the quality? I mean, looking at that photo we were just looking at earlier of the individual lights, it seems like pretty high quality stuff. I mean, kind of convenient.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed to tell it from a regular, I mean, it's still a regular 2-wire. I mean, it looks exactly like all of the Pro mini lights that everyone's used to stringing.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask this because I'm sure people are thinking it. Can I just hook this up to a Falcon?
No. Right now, it's a fairly closed proprietary little system. I think eventually you'll see some way of importing and exporting from things we like. Because I've been pushing for it, for one, because I think that would be fantastic if we could do stuff in X Lights and then drop it into the controllers and have it run that part of the show. I think that would be amazing. I think they'll get there. I just don't know exactly how soon. But I mean, this is the controller. This is a 2-port. It's got a little Y adapter.
Yeah.
These guys. Two of those guys on it, and it plugs in. But it's got a little simple push button. You can flip through some of the stuff. A little indicator light tells you what it's doing, and part of the setup phase, it'll turn different colors so you know what it's doing or what it's thinking. But the controller's not super huge, which is nice. There's a 4-port version of it, which is significantly larger. It's a bit more like that. It's got a physical network port in it, not just the Wi-Fi, and then it can do up to 1,000 lights powered off it instead of 400 like the Wi-Fi one.
Okay.
So I've got to ask this because I keep coming back to this. I'm wondering, the building of the video that we just saw, where they cover the whole front. You said that it can handle around up to 10,000 on the Pro version, right? Estimate for us how many lights that we just saw on the front of that building.
I have no idea. I asked them and I haven't gotten a response back yet. So I'm
just wondering, how far could 10,000 lights go?
Personal gut feeling is that's more than 10,000, but that's also the developer's project. So there might be a different version of the software he's testing. I don't know. But I know we've been told 10,000 pixels out of the box, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see if I can't find. There's a couple of other videos that showed some nice trees and things, but
yeah, I'm just wondering, like, some applications where this could be really, really fun and neat for people in our hobby. Because let's be honest, everybody in this hobby, right? We've all been asked these questions before of like, oh, could you like bring some lights up for this school project and do something with this and with this, whatever. And this could be a really cool way to do something neat that could be interactive with kids. It could be, different events like that. I'm just wondering, how far would 10,000 lights go?
It goes quite a ways. I mean, 10,000 lights would get you an amazingly large tree. Probably that 25 feet or so, like a typical cone kind of tree. We were messing around with, the video that you showed earlier, the white and red candy cane stripe tree, we had about 2,000 lights on that tree. So, I mean, not a ton, but the kind of design application for this, if you have more lights on it, the cleaner, more defined your lines get. So you can have too few lights and it doesn't give you that same impact. So we have yet to put too many lights on things, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think I found another video here quick too. This shows kind of a couple of other examples. So that's the building again, but there's a couple of other pieces in here that shows some kind of more branch wrap style trees. Those still look pretty impressive. This is multiple controllers mapped across a house.
Wow. That looks familiar.
I think you're going to see a lot of like centerpiece trees, kind of at malls and courtyards and that kind of thing. But anywhere you can get that decent pixel density, it's going to look a lot nicer, a lot cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is great for inside the house with the tree and everything.
I really love the way that the lights are hidden in like the trees and in the different locations. When they're not lit, you just don't see them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're not anywhere near as big as the typical bullet pixels we're used to.
Yes.
They're a lot smaller than that.
Yeah, the application's pretty
Do
great.
you ever see just looking at the technology that these little things are doing, do you ever see that the 12 millimeter pixels that we're all used to using right now will someday migrate more to that size?
I think so. I think that's kind of what everybody wants to see too. I mean, we get calls all the time. It's like, well, I want regular mini lights, but I want them to change color. It's like, well, until now, there really wasn't anything except for the bullet pixel. So yeah, I think it's definitely, and being a 2-wire system instead of a 3-wire system, your data is a little bit different. It's doing more of the like data modulation over the power instead of having a separate data line. So failures in pixels aren't supposed to cause as much of a dramatic effect as we're currently used to.
Wow. Okay, so I'm thinking of a lot of advantages here. What do you like about the Twinkle lights? What it sounds like there's a lot to like about them, but what are the top things you like about them?
We always get a lot of requests for people that want a little bit more of a traditional branch wrap style tree, but they want a lot of the RGB capabilities. And until now, having something like that has been amazingly stupid expensive. So this really brings the cost down considerably, but it still allows you to do a lot of that mapping and fairly easy content creation. So for my side of the world, taking a room full of contractors and getting them comfortable with being able to install something like this and then have the result be like anything in that video you just saw is pretty basic. I think it's going to be a while before it creeps into like our musical show kinds of things. But anybody with like static displays that wants a little bit more of a signature tree, or again on the professional side, any mall with a courtyard or something like that has been all over these. And we've got a few projects that are going into some pretty major airports, major theme parks, that kind of thing. So it's really kind of exploded in those areas.
And those shows don't kind of tie in with any kind of synchronized music traditionally anyway, right? So
correct.
Yeah.
Well, and on that question, can Twinkly Pro, can it output music that you could have music playing while you're creating the effects that you want?
Yeah, is it synchronized in that way?
I haven't seen enough of the content creation tool to really answer that one. My gut feeling is that's where they're going, to be able to do a little bit more of that kind of timeline scripting sort of thing, like what we're used to. But I haven't seen that. The 2-port controller does have like an audio reactive mode, but personally, again, coming from the show side of the world, it's not that. It might be passable, like on a slightly better than Mr. Christmas sort of deal, but that capability I know they're working on, and it will eventually get better. But it's gonna be a little bit on that yet.
So it seems to be like geared towards Christmas, right? But like, do you see this kind of becoming more than about Christmas? Like, is this for other holidays, like 4th of July, for example, or Easter? I mean.
For sure. And we're seeing that for RGB stuff across the board.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of focus on building perimeter systems, a lot of focus on permanent installation stuff. We actually had a guy buy Twinkly Pro just so that he could taunt his neighbors. In Wisconsin here, we have a thing with Illinois. So, the whole Packers Bears thing. So this guy wanted to wrap his entire tree that his neighbor had to look at out his front window, and then just let it do like the green and gold spiral stripes for the entire season, football season. So, I mean, there's definitely tons of off-season opportunities for this.
Okay, great. I think we haven't really talked about the cost. Like, how much is this going to cost? Like, because there's 2 different versions. We talked about the Twinkly Light or Twinkly, and then the Twinkly Pro. So obviously, there's going to be a price difference between those 2. But how much is the entry cost for somebody to get kind of started out with?
It's not that bad. Our typical contractor cost on the 2-port controller and 400 lights is under $300.
Oh, wow.
And the 4-port with 1,000 pixels is shade under 900.
Okay.
And hopefully I won't get smacked for mentioning that. I mean, typically that's our contractor price, but if anybody in this group wants them, I will sell them to you.
speaking of that, where can people purchase these? Let's...
There's only 3 U.S.-based distributors. Of course, I'd like to think I'm the favorite, but they are available.
You're my favorite, Paul.
See, there you go. You have an online account now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My recommendation is if someone's interested in this, PM me, send me an email, something like that. In order to get the contractor price, you're going to have to go that way. They're going to be more of a retail price if you just log into the website, unless you get Vinny to buy them for you. That's what you get for having an account, right?
Oh, look at that. I forgot to update my whiteboard. Huh. What were we talking about?
I wanted to ask, so they asked you this last time you were on, not in the same way that I'm going to ask it, but
it's still a metric system.
No. No, it's not that kind of show. Where do you see this hobby going? I mean, like, it's funny that when they asked you this question before, you said the Twinkly Lights and products like that. And here we are talking about Twinkly Lights. Where do you see it kind of going from now?
It's sort of, I mean, it's been interesting to watch. I mean, sometimes the hobbyist world pushes the professional world, and sometimes it's the other way around. So I think you're going to start seeing, more and more prop-based kinds of things using the Twinkly Pro. A lot of snowflakes and stars and that kind of thing. I think you're going to see content creation become a lot easier for more average people. A lot less time doing sequence-based stuff, but and I also think you're going to see a ton more bulb shapes. Twinkly Pro is just starting out with the 5mm because that's the shape that everybody wanted. But my guess is they're probably going to release a few new bulb shapes coming up. Hopefully, I'm hoping for like more of a traditional C9 roofline kind of style. Because then you could have stuff moving across your roof line, and then your bushes doing diagonal cane to cane stripes, and all sorts of stuff. So I think you're going to start seeing that a little bit, and I think the prices aren't going to be too crazy on them either.
I would love to see, they're called like cafe lights, right?
The bistros,
yeah, yeah. I would love to see something like that. We don't have any good like adjustable type of lights like that, really.
Twinkly Pro has a G40 available right now. We chose not to bring any in just because this whole schedule and everything. I mean, they offered distributorships in like March, I think it was. So they've been kind of on a fast track for this one. But next year, we'll definitely take a look at additional bulb shapes. But I know that G40 Bistro S14 kind of market is something that they're very interested in. We have the Spectre Show, which is more of like a clicky remote style color change. That's available right now, but individual pixel control, I would say, is definitely coming soon.
I look forward to that. My backyard is.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, Vinny, do you have any other questions? Or Paul, do you want to show us anything more about Twinkly Lights? Or?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say my mind is just looking at all the different ways. I just had parent-teacher conferences recently, and I had 2 different teachers that were talking to me about science projects where they're experimenting with light. And they're like, we'd really love you to come in and help us do some experiments with lights and things like that. And I was like, what do you want to do? Like, and they're like, well, what could we do? And my answer to all of them were just, quite honestly, if you come up with the idea of what you want to do, I likely can figure out a way to make it happen. And my brain now, from those conversations earlier this week to this Twinkly Pro, is like, this type of stuff helps me go, with this, there's like nothing I couldn't do with this in terms of the things that they want to do at the school. And I'm so thinking about making some sort of little prop. I don't know what it would be yet. Something wrapped in lights and allow the kids to control it. Allow, when I go to the fair and we do these different things, it'd be neat. Trade shows.
Yep, we have one client that's putting a tree out in front of their place, but they have an iPad secured in a little holder, and then they're just going to let people, swipe the effects on it, change the colors, and just let everybody mess with it. Because the other portion of the Twinkly app, it's a little bit like a real-time animation sort of thing, where your tree will go black, and then you take your finger and you select whatever color, and you can draw on the tree, and then it will animate you drawing on the tree in whatever color you selected. So you can have that kind of, if you draw like a little squiggle and then stop, it'll draw a little squiggle and then stop, and then it'll clear it and start all over again. Or you can just have it like a static kind of thing. We've got some wireframe makers that are looking at using Twinkly Pro to do color variations and things where they would normally had to switch strings or replace a bulb. They would just be able to map the thing and be like, all right, I want, Rudolph's nose to be red. That's these 4 pixels, tap, 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 and they're red. So, I mean, there's definite possibilities along those lines also, not always the motion and the crazy colors and stuff, but
no,
just even being a static display piece.
That's so cool. Like, that's a good way for us as hobbyists to kind of to have an interactive kind of element in our display without kind of taking away from our already existing kind of systems, that we have. That's I already kind of have an idea. I want to do like a pinwheel type of system, and I want to have that different than the rest of the show. It'd be great to use the Twinkly Lights on that and have like a kiosk kind of little iPad there, and the kids could kind of go to it while everyone else is watching the show, and they feel like they're a part of it and everything, and it doesn't affect the rest of it. I love this.
Yeah, or I mean, being a subset of a larger piece too.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a company that makes large scale Whoville stuff.
Okay.
So we were looking at doing, some of the trees and some of the panels and things, because we could easily have something be, the typical crazy Dr. Seuss colors and stripes, and the house could have polka dots one minute and stripes the next, and you'd be able to change stuff up that way, but still be, that static display piece.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's all sorts of crazy.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I would have never thought like
cool.
A box and a post that I saw was, would spur so much more ideas now,
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, the app too is very basic. It's not at all complicated. There's only a few screens to it, but it'll show you all of the pixels on the screen.
Is there a setup tab and then a layout tab and then a sequence tab? Because, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No.
Good. All right. That's easy then.
The devices tab and then the effects window. But
that sounds much easier.
Yeah, and there's the utility for grouping things too. So you'll be able to add the controllers to a Wi-Fi network, and then all of the available controllers will show up in the app. And then you can take, this controller and this controller is the wreath, and this one is the tree. So you can break them up into named groups, and then you can apply an effect to that mapped group. And then there's different groups. There's a join group and a sync group and everything else. So you can have it a lot easier to control multiple objects. You can have, all 3 of those objects running the same effect, but mapped specifically to them. Yeah. Or in a join group, you can have it mapped to all of them. It's kind of a weird concept. You got to play with it a little bit, but
yeah, I will.
Yeah, it's more like
I love that concept.
Yeah. Have you ever, you probably heard of Hue lights, right? And like with the app,
I was full of them.
Yeah, me too. But so like the app, you can, they did something a couple years ago where other apps can like tie into the Hue app, where like one app's really good for having it so it interacts with your smart television. So then you can have the lights interact with the show, right? Well, yep. Is there any kind of tie-in, or is that, again, kind of harping back to the third-party support? Is that something that in the works, you think, or they definitely should, right?
I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I haven't seen anything that would indicate one way or the other.
Yeah. Huh.
But if you're curious what the app looks like.
Yeah. Wow, that's so simple.
Very basic. You click on the one you want, and it'll just start playing that effect on the device. There's a whole bunch of them that start out with it, and then there's an online like library where you can download additional effects right now. And whatever this is just obviously the default tree one, but if you map a wreath or whatever, it'll change it to like a little representation of that wreath. So, and it's just very simple, basic software, but it works, which is nice.
Is there a cost for going on the web and downloading the extras, or is that kind of like part of the package?
Right now, it's part of the package.
Mhm.
You might eventually get to the point where there's some paid content, but right now there's like another couple of dozen effects up there that you can download.
Right on.
And I think that there might be a subscription model for the content creation piece. They haven't figured that out yet.
Beta.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you,
So,
Paul, for. Oh,
I've
hey.
got one more question for you,
Oh
Paul.
boy,
Yeah.
he was waiting for this.
Because I always end things right. In the main mothership podcast, we end things with the rapid fire questions, whether you're familiar with. So I have one oddball question for you. How long, if I set the over under at 2 years from this season, so not this season, not the next season, but the 2021 holiday season, will it be before or after that I will hear the first time when people see my lights and go, "Oh yeah, I saw these in the store. Those are those twinkly light things."
Well, the Jemmy products don't already do that.
See, I haven't had anybody yet that has
Yeah.
said, "Oh yeah, I saw these in the store." Most people are still asking me, "How on earth do you do this?" So, how long will it be? Will it be 2 years away or less before somebody says to me, "Hey, I saw these in the store. These are those twinkly lights, right?"
I don't know. I think that hinges on the ability of that content creation tool. I think if that evolves quickly and well, yeah, you probably about got that 2-3 seasons. If that lags a little bit, I still. I don't know. I don't think there's still going to be anything that's going to automatically listen to the music and create anything quite like what we're used to and what we as humans can do, because it's going to lack the feeling. It's going to lack the understanding of the music. I mean, it's just going to be boiled down to mathematically turning things on and off.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a while before that has any sort of, human sort of quality to it. But yeah, I mean,
I do fear, we put so much time. The money's one thing. It's the time that we put into our light shows. And I do fear from a hobbyist standpoint, not a commercial standpoint at all, because from my commercial side, I love like everything about twinkly lights. From my hobbyist side, I look at lights like this and I'm like, God damn it. People are going to think that this is stuff that we can just, hey, we just grab it out of the box and put it up. Voila. Right now they know that that's not true.
It's going to be a while before that's a prevailing theory. Again, from the personal or professional side of the world, I do a lot of programming for all sorts of municipalities, trees, and all sorts of things. So, yeah, I mean, we're all going to be a little problematic if that happens. But like I said, it's going to be a while before it can match the color palettes and the feeling and that whole experience of the shows that we all do.
Good. Makes me feel better.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I like to say that I spend 40 hours each song on a sequence. When they ask me, hey, how long does it take you to do something like that? Well, each song is about 40 hours of my time just on the effects alone. Not talking about the props. I like that statistic.
Yeah. It's good. It works.
Yeah.
Saying those type of things, and although true, are the exact things that help us stay a small group of hobbyists.
Yes.
And it doesn't get quite mainstream when they're like, oh God, 40 hours for a song? I don't like the lights that much. I'll just come to your house and look at them. That's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the old Mr. Christmas thing. Everybody thought that was going to be the end all too. And we just all figured out how to make that better. So I think the same thing is going to hold true with these. I think we're just going to figure out how to use them to their full potential and keep going.
The problem with that product, though, compared to this product, is that was a piece of, and this is like potentially so much more,
Correct. But it was still like one of the first commercially available products that sort of came close to some of this stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I was at a drive-through once, and we volunteer at, and they plugged a Mr. Christmas that they just purchased in there, and I felt insulted and turned it off. So.
There you go.
Pull that plug on that.
Yeah. Oh man. Well,
I can remember the first light show I had a Mr. Christmas, And I brought my grandpa over because I was so proud of my lights.
Yeah.
And he did not understand. He didn't hear the Mr. Christmas box going. So he didn't understand why the lights were blinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the funny story of my grandpa.
Nice.
I still get the occasional car that will be sitting in front of my house for like probably 20 minutes. And then I'll come out there just walking my dog or handing candy canes. I'll notice that there's no music coming out of the car. And I'm all like, hey, that's actually, there's a channel, that's why it says tune in to this channel. Oh, what? It's the music. Oh my God. Whoa, man. And then at the next like 5 minutes, they're like staring at me like with the music, like emphasizing that they're listening to it now. I'm like, yeah, ready to go.
See, around here, like the second I walk outside, everybody's like, oh my God, and then just drive away.
Just drive away.
It's like, it's all right. It's like we do this so that people hang out. It's all right. You're fine.
That's why I got like this door in the side of the house. So it comes out way in this little courtyard area. So I just pop out of nowhere.
Yeah. And it's always fun when you're outside, working on stuff in the middle of the night with your little headlamp on and the cops pull you, with the little spotlight.
Yeah, right. So, yeah.
Good times.
Fixing pixels with Scotchlocks.
Hey, good segue. Speaking of Scotchlocks, we're going to talk about that in the next segment. But I kind of want to ask Paul, do you know about Scotchlocks? Or because I think that's going to be the yeah. I mean, speaking of like things that kind of like are going to make our hobby a little easier, I think Scotchlocks are kind of going to be that thing. I mean, we kind of went through like, soldering, butt connectors. And I think the next big thing is going to be these Scotchlocks, And
that's another big difference between the professional world and the hobbyist world too. Like that's the last thing we tell our contractors to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't want them using things like Scotchlocks.
No, we really don't.
No.
That's why the Minley and RGB products have ends already put on them, and the extensions come with the O-rings already put on them, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, those get busted if you just go and buy new ones, right? So it's the best way to keep the everything legal and stuff like that too, insurance and everything,
Yeah, and we're dealing with people that are very particular about their uptime, and if we have a pixel or something that goes out, whatever, we crawl out there, we cut it out, we solder in new ones. It's no big deal.
Exactly.
You can't be doing that in the middle of a zoo or something.
Yeah,
it doesn't work that well.
Well, I'm still excited about these Scotchlocks. So that's what we're going to be talking about here in a little bit. But I just want to say thank you, Paul, for coming on, talking about this amazing product. I'm definitely going to be going out and buying a box here pretty soon. And, thanks so much.
Yep, sure. No problem. Let me know. You know where to find me.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Thank you, Paul. It is always nice to talk to you.
You as well. Cool.
All right, bye, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
The professional triers and the Holiday Lighting Think Tank have teamed up with Cool Tees to provide you, our VIP listeners, with some cool, awesome, and one-of-a-kind professional triers gear, including t-shirts, brew mugs, can coolies, coffee mugs, and of course, the one and only Think Tank flannel shirt made famous by none other than our own JR. So go to hlttgear.com, that's hlttgear.com, and get your professional triers gear today.
But we're back and we're kind of dressed a little different. We had a little bit of time, Vinny and I, to experiment with these Scotchlocks. And I think we have enough information now that we could kind of give you guys all the details you can to make the right purchases. Right, Vinny?
Yeah, it's the thing is there are so many of these products and versions out there because these aren't a new product. These have been around for decades, but we just needed to find the right ones that suit our purposes. And now we've got that information. I think we can clarify a lot of things for you, right?
Yes, exactly. So I'm hoping that we could just kind of condense this down. We'll give you all the information you need so you can start buying these Scotchlocks and start getting on the Scotchlock revelation.
There you go. I want to be the Russell McFarland of Scotchlocks. He can be the Mo Votes, Mo Better guy, and I am the Scotchlocks guy.
There you go.
I need a clever slogan like Mo Votes is Mo Better.
Maybe the community could help.
Yeah. If anybody wants to shoot us a message, if you've got a good Scotchlok slogan, I will put it on a T-shirt. Best
That's
slogan
awesome.
I find, I'll put on a T-shirt.
Well, that's fun. So let's get into this, Vinny. So what have we learned in the last like week and a half, honestly? Like,
Well, I'm gonna tell. I mean, and we kind of I think agree on this that the short version, the condensed, the quick Cliff Notes version is just keep it simple by 3M UR2. Here's the box. We can post links and stuff. UR2, 3M Scotchlok UR2. That is important. Not UR2. Keith, get more
exactly.
elaborate.
No, exactly. UR2. And then the big difference why UR2 compared to UR is it's that inside diameter. It's that basically that hole where we need to stick the sleeve and the wires in. So for people that don't know what Scotch locks are, they're great for one. And for two, what the big advantages of them is that you don't have to basically strip the sleeve away from the wire, exposing the wire. And, like butt connectors, you have to you slip the sleeve and then you stick it in the butt connectors and then you have to clamp down. Well, for this, no stripping, just stick it into the Scotch locks and just plier. See, Vinny's giving us a nice little demonstration. And then just using these nice pliers, just flat pliers. That's the key, right, Vinny? Is to have basically kind of flat
Yes.
pliers to make that nice, good connection down. So I just made a connection, and that
So
was it.
the pliers that you find that are specified for Scotch locks, right? And there's many different companies that make them. Some people call these products are technically called IDC connectors, but Scotchlok is like the name brand for it. It's like a Kleenex is actually a facial tissue, but Kleenex is what we call it because it's the name brand, right? Anyway, so yes, the pliers that are intended for it, all it does is it ensures that you apply the pressure and on the button all evenly across it. So I'll be totally honest, I do it all the time. I use channel locks, I use needle nose pliers because, hey, I need to crimp this quick. I just grab the nearest set of pliers I have. If I'm sitting and I'm building a prop and I know I'm doing tons of Scotch locks, I'll go grab my dedicated Scotch lock pliers. But the purpose is when you apply that pressure, you need to do it evenly to push the whole button down, smoothly. So the whole button's pushed. That's the key. But you ready for this,
Yes,
Keith?
yes. Yep.
So I have a completely uncut, unstripped, or it's cut now, but it's unstripped. Nothing has happened. Scotch lock, right? Or wire here. Ready? Watch this. Watch how quickly I did this.
All right, timer's on.
1, 2, 3, 4, crimp, 4 seconds.
That's what's great about these.
And I could have done it in 2.5, except I struggled getting the wire in the hole.
Yeah.
That's it. No stripping, no soldering, no heating, no anything. Just stick them in, cramp, squeeze, boom, walk away, move to the next one.
And what makes
it's great.
Sorry. What makes these things so great, right, is that the gel inside of them, just releases when you press down and makes it totally water resistant. So that's why we're able to just be able to use these in such a, no heat shrink or nothing.
Yep. When I tested these, and the reason I knew this would work, because if you open up a telecom neighborhood box, a little green short tower box that's between your houses, a telephone company uses, they're all over in your neighborhood. If you open one of those up, you're going to find hundreds of these Scotch locks inside that little box. And I have opened up some of those boxes before and seen that the bottom, quarter of it that's underground it's filled with water. It's full. Everything in there's fully submerged, and those Scotch locks are just soaking underwater, and they still work fine, not a problem. So when I did the test putting all these connections underwater, sending our volts through it. I knew it would work, and I had no problem. But I had to prove that to people, and I maybe wanted to prove it to myself too. But that gel inside, it weatherproof. It's so good.
Yeah.
They're so good.
I love that so I'm going to show my screen really quick, kind of. So this is the brand that me and Vinny especially recommends right here, the UR2. And again, this is just IDC, like you mentioned, like a Kleenex brand. So you're just looking for basically this part right here. Just ignore this TM. You can look up. We've only had experience with 3M though right now. We'll talk about another product potentially being available to consumers from a really reliable source pretty soon here. But what I want to focus on the screen here is what makes UR2 so special. So it has 2 or 3 connectors. So the ability to splice or connect 2 wires or 3 wires. And it doesn't matter if you have that, if you're just going to use 2 wires and having an open hole, because that gel, again, fills that opening, no problem at all. So you can use the R2 with 2 or 3 connectors. Mm-hmm. And then sorry, go ahead.
That maybe we should answer the question now.
Okay.
The difference between the yellow and the red.
Okay.
Or do you want to address that later?
Let's address it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So think of it this way. You'll see this too. The UR2 and the UY2. The R red, the Y is yellow. What's the difference between the yellow and the red? The only difference is that one is a 3 conductor, the other one is a 2 conductor. So that's your difference. The red one can do 3 conductors. So and I'll tell you this, when I went down and bought some from my local supply house, they have a shelf full of the UR2 3Ms. They don't have any of the UY2s because they work so well. It doesn't matter if you only are using 2 wires and you leave one hole empty. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So that's why everyone uses the 3 conductor version and just, hey, in case I need to put 3 wires in, I've got the ability to do it now.
Exactly.
So they're so much more popular. I would recommend them.
Yes. And so now again, you're
going to go on.
No, of course. So what you're going to see if you look for these IDC butt connectors, URs, you're going to see URs. That's it. Like Amazon, eBay, UR, everything. But you need to get the UR2. Now, what is the difference between UR and UR2? It's this right here, this insulated outside diameter. I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but that's that point of insertion in the connection in the IDC butt connector that you insert your wire into. So if you get UR or UY without the 2, what the difference is this is going to be a smaller number. It's going to be 0.066 or smaller. And you can't get anything in there. It's horrible. So
it might as well be a bag of trash.
Exactly.
They're too small.
Vinny and I both did experimenting this whole week and a half, and we made those mistakes for you guys so you don't have to.
Yep. I bought these ones. I was excited about them. They were a bag of 200 for $12. And I was like, awesome. I'm not going to recommend them till I test them. And I'm glad I did that because although the wire diameter on these, which it specified in the specs that it would fit or that it's large enough. And in fact, it does fit. But for example, on these ones, they're so cheap that gel is hard and you can't get your wires all the way in.
Yeah.
So anyway, a lot of testing that Keith and I did, and I'm glad we did all that.
Yeah. And so let's kind of talk about price because you mentioned it. So you're going to definitely find the cheaper URs and the UYs for cheap because there's a reason that is. So you're going to pay a little bit more. I found prices that are basically the UR2s anywhere between $13 for 100 to for the UY2s $10. And unfortunately, I'm not even going to recommend where I got it right now because they're back ordered 3 weeks. So on crunch time that we're all in right now, I can't recommend it. But I'm going to let Vinny kind of mention maybe another person that potentially here is going to have some. We haven't tested though, but
Yep,
good price.
I'll say that I had a conversation with him today, and he's got a new source, Matos Designs, J.R. Matos. He has got a new source for Scotchlocks that he's going to have available on his site. That he says they're going to be great, and they're going to beat the price. They're going to be the best price out there from the numbers we're seeing. But again, at this point on this date, I haven't tested them yet. But I fully trust that they're going to be great. I've got good confidence in him.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and he hasn't tested them either yet. They're on order. He doesn't have them in hand yet. So we're excited about that. But at this point, you've all heard me say this before, and I'm going to say it again. Go to your local electrical supply house. At this point, I have not found anywhere better. Here's why I say that. Amazon, yeah, they have them. We actually, I want to say we sold them out because holy shit, they blew up in our community, and then all of a sudden Amazon sold out. But on Amazon, they're $18.99. They're $19 on Amazon. I got the exact same box, exactly the same product, no difference, for $14 at my local electrical supply house. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to put it that way instead of a name because everyone's got them and everybody's got 100 of them. Every town has got electrical supply houses. Mm-hmm. So these were $14 and there's a shelf clear full of them.
It's a good excuse to get out there, meet some of the people in the community at those places. Maybe you might make a connection, you know?
Yep.
But yeah, don't forget about your local electronic supplies places. That's true. I still need to do that myself. I'm by, you text me this morning, you're like, you got to do that.
Yep. Also, I just because I want to make sure that we have the wording right. I didn't go to an electronic supply. I went to an electrical supply house. So that's where your giant electrical company that builds the skyscraper or the ma and pa electrician that you call to put in a new outlet for you, where he gets all his supplies. He doesn't go to Home Depot. He goes to a special supplier. At least at my city, every single one, random Joe can walk in there and buy it all the same. You don't have to have some commercial account. Anybody can walk in and buy it.
I'm glad you clarified that because, how I presented it was quite a bit different. So thank you.
I didn't want somebody going to a Radio Shack thinking they're going to get these.
Yes, exactly. So, no, thank you.
Clarify.
Yeah. So I want to mention one other thing. We haven't tested yet, but this is something that has been mentioned by a community member. And I think this is going to be an interesting product too to look at. But the price is ridiculous. I've seen prices as high as $1 per connector to 70 cents per connector. So this is maybe the wrong thing to talk about, but it's worth mentioning. So this is another Scotchlok. This is the 314 bin. And now what the 314 has for itself is just a bigger wire connection. The UR2s and the UY2s are, I think the biggest wire gauge is 18 basically, right? You can get 18 or 19 gauges. And you can, and that's just like a rough estimate. Cause, to be honest with you, we don't even, when you buy 18 gauge pixels, you're not really getting 18 gauge pixels. So I don't think any of us are going to need to run out and buy this because we don't even have the big enough wire to do it. But it's worth mentioning. So I figured I'd put that out there.
Yeah, I think there may be a need for those in the hobby, in the community. However, I'm going to say that when I'm using my larger gauge connections, it's honestly, it's so rare. It's not a lot of it. I'm happy to just solder those ones because it's few and far between when I even do. In fact, off the top of my head, I'm not actually coming up with an example of when I would use that. But at and I'm not good at math, but I just pulled out my calculator quick to at least have some sort of numbers. At 5 to 7 times the cost individually, because ours are 14 cents each. So at 5 to 7 times the cost, I just can't see it being worth it.
No, me either.
So
I am ordering a small amount because the price is so high, just so we can experiment. But yes, stick with
3M,
that.
you are too.
Yes.
Stick with it. Get it.
Stick with it.
Get it. Got it. Done.
Oh, man. Join the revelation, the revelation that is 3M Scotchlocks. It's like a priest. Ah.
I like it.
All right, everyone. I think
all I
we
can
nailed
think about
this.
is Glenn from Letterkenny.
Oh, dude, I just got into that show, man. You guys hooked me on that.
I love it.
If you haven't seen Letterkenny, go and watch it. Oh.
Lord, I need some Scotchlocks in my life. Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be good.
All
Awesome.
right, everyone.
Thanks,
I hope
Keith.
you enjoyed the show. Thanks, Vinny, for being my co-host.
Dude, I love it. I love coming on with you, man. It's the best.
Yeah, it's the best. All right, bye, everyone.
Take care.